All right, so today we're diving into some pretty interesting territory.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be looking at the career of an adult film performer,
Okay.
Coco Lovelock,
hmm
and our source material
Yeah.
is an interview from a porn website.
Okay.
So, yeah, buckle up.
That'll be good.
Yeah, so our interviewer
Right.
goes by the name PornDude.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he has a very blunt style,
Oh, okay.
straight to the point.
So he just cuts right to the chase.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds refreshing.
Yeah, it really gets to the heart of things.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I noticed that I thought was interesting was that Coco Lovelock's stage name
Mm-hmm.
actually comes from a nickname that she had in high school
Oh, wow.
and the town that she used to live in, which was Lovelock, Nevada.
Huh. How about that?
Yeah.
So very personal.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that becomes part of her brand,
Yeah.
Like in the adult entertainment world, I imagine that's a big part of it,
Yeah, for sure.
constructing an image.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of her start and how she got into the industry,
Yeah.
I thought this was really fascinating. She started by making her own content and posting it on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And a friend of hers who was already signed with an agency
Mm-hmm.
saw her content and was like, hey, you should talk to my agent.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's kind of a common thread we see across a lot of creative industries these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Musicians, artists, writers, everybody starts out by, building a following online, showing their work.
Yeah,
And it really speaks to the power of self-promotion,
it does.
networking no matter what business you're in.
Yeah, it's a good blueprint for anyone trying to get their name out there and start something new.
Mhm.
Put yourself out there, create connect,
Exactly.
and the opportunities might come.
Yeah, and it seems to have worked for her.
It has, and she's not stopping there.
Oh.
This is where it gets really interesting. She's actually in the process of creating a whole website
Okay.
dedicated to squirting.
Oh.
She wants to feature other performers and really explore this niche.
That's ambitious.
It is.
It really highlights that entrepreneurial spirit,
Yeah.
that we see more and more these days in the adult industry. Performers are becoming content creators, building their brand.
Yeah,
They're business owners.
for sure.
They're not just relying on the studios and the agencies anymore.
Yeah, they're taking control of their own futures.
Right.
It really makes you wonder, what are the challenges of, starting a website like this, finding the right audience,
Yeah.
building a community,
Mm-hmm.
managing the technical side of it?
All of that.
Yeah,
There's a lot to it.
there is. But it speaks to, her drive and her ambition to make it work.
For sure.
So from a high school nickname
Right.
to a self-made career,
Yeah.
and now a whole website dedicated to a very specific niche.
She's really going for it.
Lovelock's story is full of twists and turns.
Yeah. I wonder what else we'll find out.
And this is just the beginning. There's a lot more to unpack here.
Definitely. So, we've talked about how Coco Lovelock is kind of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual work that she does,
Right.
how does she deal with, requests from fans for custom content?
Well, this is where the interview gets really interesting.
Okay.
She's open to creating custom content for her OnlyFans subscribers,
Okay.
but she says she actually hasn't gotten any, outlandish requests or anything.
Oh, wow. So people are pretty respectful of her.
Yeah, it seems like it.
That's interesting,
It is.
because you think about the adult industry and people always assume.
Yeah, you think it would be crazy.
Yeah.
But she says her fans are very respectful and they understand her boundaries.
Well, that's good to hear.
It really kind of challenges some assumptions
Yeah,
about that whole world.
for sure.
And it shows that, there's a lot more professionalism than people might think.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we shouldn't generalize.
Yeah.
There's so much complexity in these interactions. So I'm curious, did she mention anything about what she hopes to do in the future?
She did.
Yeah.
She actually wants to get into feature dancing.
Wow.
And she wants to work with certain studios and directors.
Oh, really? Like who?
She specifically mentioned Vixen and Blacked.
Those are big names.
They are.
So she's really aiming high.
And she even mentioned wanting to work with Caden Cross as a director.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you can tell she's really inspired by other people in her field, just like any creative profession.
Yeah, it shows that ambition and career goals really exist in every industry.
Right. And the path to getting there is often very similar.
Yeah, putting yourself out there and working towards something.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Those desires are universal.
And speaking of putting yourself out there,
Yes.
Lovelock is really active on social media.
I bet.
She's on Instagram, she's on Twitter,
Okay.
and she even encourages fans to find her on OnlyFans.
That's smart, you know? She's really using these platforms to her advantage.
It's like a masterclass in self-promotion.
Exactly. It's so important these days.
It is.
To build that brand.
Yeah, no matter what you do.
So I know we talked about her website.
Right. The squirting website.
Yeah.
Dedicated to squirting.
What do you think is the strategy behind that kind of niche venture?
I mean, it's definitely a bold move.
It is.
Makes you wonder about, who her target audience is and how she's going to make it all work.
Well, I think understanding the audience is key. Knowing who you're creating this for.
Right.
And what their needs are.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole technical side of it.
Right. Building the website.
Yeah.
Making sure the payments work.
And getting people to actually visit the site.
Yeah. The marketing side of things.
Exactly. There's a lot that goes into it.
It's a lot to handle, but I think it really shows her drive.
Mm-hmm.
She's willing to take risks.
It's not just about, starting a traditional business anymore.
Right.
It's about finding opportunities online.
Yeah. Creating content.
And making those connections.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the business side of things.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to talk about her preferences and her boundaries, too.
Right. That's crucial for any performer.
Yeah.
So what did she have to say about that?
She talked about what she enjoys.
Okay.
And she specifically said that she likes the feeling of being tied up,
Okay.
having no control,
Mm-hmm.
and letting the guy take charge.
So it's all about trust.
Yeah.
And making sure everyone feels safe.
Exactly. And she said she really trusts the photographers that she works with,
That's good.
to keep her safe while still giving her that feeling of being dominated.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
It is.
It's a reminder that there's so much communication and understanding involved
Definitely.
in any kind of collaboration.
Lovelock also mentioned that she's attracted to older men
Okay.
and that she's open to partners of all genders.
Interesting.
But what really stood out to me was that she said, if someone can make her laugh, they can also excite her.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It really shows what she finds appealing in a partner.
Yeah, I think it really humanizes the whole experience.
Sure.
And reminds us that there's an emotional and intellectual connection there, too.
Exactly. It's not just physical.
So we've seen her entrepreneurial side,
Mm.
her boundaries, and her preferences,
Yeah.
and her aspirations for the future.
It's clear there's a lot more to her story
There is.
than meets the eye.
I'm really curious to hear your final thoughts
Yeah.
about Coco Lovelock's career and what it all means
Absolutely.
for the adult entertainment industry as a whole.
Let's get into it. Welcome back to our deep dive. It's been pretty fascinating learning about Coco Lovelock.
It has, right, from those Instagram beginnings to, building her own website and her own brand.
Yeah, and really, kind of taking control of her career.
Mm.
And I think that's really inspiring to see.
It is, especially in an industry that's often, misunderstood.
Right, exactly. And, her success, it didn't just happen overnight. It took a lot of work, a lot of planning, and definitely a willingness to take some risks.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that entrepreneurial spirit really comes through in this interview.
Absolutely.
She's not just performing, she's building a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to remember that, she's a person too with her own preferences and boundaries.
Yeah, that really resonated with me too.
Yeah, just her honesty about what she enjoys and what she's looking for in a partner.
Mm-hmm. And that emphasis on trust and consent.
Yeah.
That's so important.
It really challenges us to think differently about the industry
Absolutely.
and to see the people in it
Yeah.
as, complex individuals.
Right. And not just, stereotypes or whatever.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts on Lovelock's career and what it all means?
Well, I think her story really shows how the adult industry is changing.
Yeah.
Performers are taking charge, they're starting businesses, and they're using technology to connect with their fans in new ways.
It's really a movement toward empowerment.
Exactly. Breaking free from those old ways of doing things.
And looking their own rules.
And I think it challenges all of us to really, rethink what we think we know about this industry.
Yeah, to see the depth and the complexity of it.
For sure.
Lovelock's story really highlights, the importance of self-determination and setting boundaries and, really just the evolving nature of work.
Right. It's all changing so fast.
It is. And I think it's a reminder that you can find fascinating stories anywhere.
Yeah, you never know where you'll find inspiration.
So to our listeners, If you ever come across something that challenges your views,
Mm-hmm.
take a moment to dive a little deeper.
Yeah, you might be surprised by what you learn.
You might even be inspired.
That's what it's all about.